Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here at the Spartan Rocketry Club, and we are going to be continuing our build of the Estes DARC-1. Hopefully, in this part of the video, we will wrap up building the bottom part down here now. In the intervening time, the glue has set. The rocket is, well, it's it is what it is. Its alignment is fine, I guess. It's really hard to tell what it should be precisely. I have an angled mat component that you can't see just off camera here, and I've checked it against it, and I don't think that the fins are supposed to be precisely at 120-degree increments based on where the lines are. It's kind of hard to say, but it looks fine. So we're going to continue the build. All right, so what needs to happen next is that we are going to anchor the recovery system to this rocket, and the anchoring is going to be a little bit unusual. Now, usually we would take a shock cord, which is right here, and we would cut out a piece of paper, and then we would glue it inside this and connect it that way. This rocket doesn't take that approach. Instead, what we are going to do is we are going to use one of these rings, and it's going to go on like this. And the shock cord is actually going to go inside the ring here, like so. And it's going to get anchored in place that way. Now, this is going to make it a bit more difficult to get it on because the ring conforms pretty well to the rocket itself. So it's not super easy, but I just did it there, so it's not all that bad. Before I do anything further, like I'm going to move this out a little bit. What I want to do is I want to tie this in place, and we're going to do the usual just double knot here. Oops. To hold it in place. And the instructions say that I should actually do this before I put the this whole thing onto the rocket. I'm actually going to tie it. Should I tie it a third time? Sure, why not? What's the worst thing that could happen? It wouldn't fit somewhere, but I don't think that's a particular concern here, because this isn't going to lie particularly flat one way or the other. Here we go. All right, so in any event, I think it would be quite hard to get this tied first and then to slide it on, so we're not going to take that approach. All right, now the ring here that I have, I'm going to glue it in place, and there's actually not a measurement listed, which is kind of odd, but okay. Basically, my instructions are to slide it as far down as possible. It also doesn't really show me where I want the knot relative to any of the fins, so I'm going to actually do it just for fun in alignment with the tail fin. But regardless, I need to add some glue. So I'm going to put a ring of glue fairly far in front of where the ring's going to end up. Just pushing the ring through the glue ought to help spread the glue out pretty nicely too. Got a lot of excess there, so don't need that. And the glue actually seems to have stopped things a little short of where I had intended the ring to go. Try to get as much glue off my hands as possible because I don't want to gum up this tube. This feels pretty well set here, and I don't think there's any particular reason why it has to go all the way back. In fact, the instructions, looking at the instructions, it looks like there's a little bit of a gap maybe. So it should be fine. Oh, by the way, the instructions say that the next step that we should do is to attach the engine retaining system. I'm not going to do that right now. I don't ever add those until it's the last thing. Like after painting is completely done, then I apply them. The reason I don't want these around is because you don't want to get glue or paint, specifically paint, I guess is the big concern, into the threads of that retainer. Because if you do, you're probably never going to be able to screw the end cap onto it. And they fit quite nicely. I mean, just go look into the pack of stuff I haven't used yet. it fits just fine. So there's a lot of give there. So painting over this and then attaching this at the end, it's not like it's going to make it any more difficult. All right, so this, the only other thing it says to do, and I'm not going to bother doing it right now, is to tie a loop into the end of this. Again, do I need to do that right now? Not really. At some point I will, but for the time being, it's fine as is. So that should be basically done. It just needs to dry. The last thing that I'm going to do in this video, because again, we're kind of worried about timing here, letting glue dry and that kind of stuff, is we're going to, not completely, but we're going to start the process of anchoring this part in place. And it's going to go in the nose like so. So you can have a look down there. It's eventually going to be glued in place. But before that happens, we need the complete construction of this thing. And while I've started it, I'm not actually anywhere near finished. That's fine. So when last we left off, I just glued it in place, and then the next instruction says to like test fit it, which is great. The last thing I need to do, or the last thing I'm going to be able to do today, is I'm going to attach the launch lug to this, because the launch lug is going to go through this. Well, it's not going to go through this, but it's going to be lined up with this hole here. And here it is. It's 2 inches long. So it should, ooh, that's a lot of extraneous, yeah, that's interesting. Let's measure this and see if it's actually 2 inches long. Yeah, it is significantly longer than 2 inches. Well, that's interesting. We may need to trim that at the end, but I'm not going to worry about that too much for the time being. In any event, what I am going to do is, and the instructions say that I should glue on piece L, which is it's a wooden piece. So I need to find my wood sheet. This is going to be like a standoff, and it's this guy right here. It's going to be a standoff, so I can have a good anchor for this above the tube. So I'm going to cut that out quickly. I'm not going to bother sanding it or anything like that. It's an internal part. The only thing that might be mildly annoying are any little burrs here. So, yeah, you know what? I might as well. I'm going to grab a piece of sandpaper here, and I'm just going to sand a couple times. Try to get the burrs smooth. We'll do that on both sides. I doubt that's really essential, but wouldn't hurt, I guess. All right, so I am going to do what the instructions say, and the instructions say put a bit of glue here. Let's spread it out as usual with my dowel. I am not going to bother with the 2-layer approach here. Shouldn't really be necessary. But what I do need to do is I need to make sure that this is on the up end, so the longer of the 2 ends. So it's just short of 2 inches, remember. And I want to have it directly underneath that circular hole. Now, it probably would have been nice to draw a line down this so I could see if it were on straight. But the instructions didn't say to do that. So I guess I'm kind of going to have to eyeball it. Although I guess technically it doesn't really matter if this is on straight, because I could put the launch lug on top of it without that being straight. It shouldn't really make a whole lot of difference. All right, so I'm going to make sure that this is essentially lined up with the hole here as possible. That looks reasonably good. And then I need to glue the launch lug on top of the little stick that I just attached. Okay, do that. Now, what I really need to be careful about is I don't want any glue to get in the hole, and I don't want any glue to mess up the launch lug here, because that would be problematic. All right. Now, it looks like, well, it would be delightful if I could get the launch lug through that hole, but I don't think that that's possible. So, oh yeah, my mistake. It sure is possible. So I'm actually going to push it. I'm going to push it down this way a little bit, and I'm going to get the two ends flush. And I can do that by just pushing down like here. As for the amount of extra launch tube or launch lug tube that's sticking through here, the instructions don't seem to want any. But this is longer than what the launch lug instructions show for, whatever that means. I don't think that's going to be a problem. In fact, I'm quite sure it isn't. But it is kind of odd one way or the other. Anyway, so this needs to dry. And once it has dried, I'm not going to show this, but I need to put glue fillets to secure it. Well, I guess I could do that. I can do it right now. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm just going to put kind of a big blob of glue and then spread it around. Hopefully I will spread it around to both the top and the bottom here while I'm just kind of pushing it out. Yeah, like so. Okay, I don't want any excess. The instructions are very specific about not having any excess. That's probably about as little excess as I can muster. Now, the little bit of extra tube here, I don't think is going to be a problem, but if it is, I can always cut it off. And, that shouldn't really make much of a difference. All right, this needs to dry, and that's probably about as much as we're going to be able to get done in this video. So I'm gonna actually, because I've got fillets here, I guess it'll be kind of stable this way, ish. And I'll have it stand on something. There we go. That's great. All right, so that's good for now. The next video looks like we are going to be putting together the nose cone, so that should be exciting. All right, so thanks for watching, and I will see you then.